After everything has dried, and I believe this, I just waited the next day. And if you did this early in the morning, maybe by 8 o'clock in the morning, you might be ready to put the second coat on in about 6 hours. All depends on what you're dealing with. And now I'm just putting some more on. So I'm using the smaller drywall knife just to put some stuff on in different areas. And this might be one of those times where the joint compound needs to be a little wetter. So if you're having a problem putting it on, you might want to put a little water in there and mix it. Oh, nothing like a blob of stuff hitting the ground. And luckily I got my tarp in there. But usually what happens is you step in it, and then if you have carpeting, you trace it throughout the house. That's kind of the standard MO. So watch out for that. And again, you can just see here, I'm going into the corner, going across, nice and flat. And I know that I'm making this look easier than it is. Trust me. How do I know? Because I remember the days when I had a tough time spreading this stuff on there. I'd watch people do it like you're watching me do it. And then I would think, no problem. So just, it might not be the same. You're going to have to work with it. Remember, you're going to be... if it doesn't turn out too good, then consider yourself your first project, and hopefully you'll learn from there. If you're a perfectionist, then try not to put too many layers on at once. That way you don't get a big, thick blob of this stuff on there, and you end up with a ceiling that's 3/4 of an inch thicker in one area than it was. So it might look flat, but it's thicker. So, and again, you could always take the entire piece of drywall out for the ceiling. I actually left it in there. I knew I could get it pretty good. This is an area above the refrigerator. This isn't a visual area. If this was located at eye level, I might have took the entire top piece out. And some people will. You get a water leak in there and they just start pulling all the drywall out. And I don't think it's, this mold thing and asbestos. I really think it's a joke when it comes to when you really start doing a little more research on it and find out a little more about it. Just kind of putting a light layer on there. You can see where I'm actually pressing. This isn't a light putting some pressure on this trowel. If I wasn't putting pressure on, I'm going to get a thicker area. So instead of maybe a 64th of an inch covering it, I might get a 32nd or, even an 1/8 of an inch of joint compound on there. But you can see the areas that need to be filled right there. If I just left it like it was here and didn't do anything to it, then I could always come back the next day. So if you get to the point where you're putting plaster on, or joint compound, you're putting joint compound on and you're kind of like going over the same area again and you can't get it flat, let it dry and sand it a little bit and put a little more plaster on it. Just, unless it's got to be done in, 1 day or 2 days, something like that. Now you can always use fast setting joint compound too. And they sell that at most home improvement centers. I think I used to use 20-minute drywall plaster. And I used to actually mix it with the joint compound. I would mix some of because it would come in a powder form. I would mix some of it up. And then let's say I would mix a quart of it up, and I would mix that with a half gallon, maybe a 2-to-1 mixture of the joint compound, and it would dry fast. I would use something like that. So if you are in a hurry, you can always use the fast setting joint compound and get in the corners. Maybe after this, narrating these videos, if I do a good enough job, I'll see if I can't go out and host some of the football stuff. Trying to come up with something to say and watching this video here, sometimes it gets a little difficult. But here goes. I'm just going to keep talking. And I'll keep you entertained. Otherwise, you're like, I'm going to another channel. Someone that knows what they're doing. And hey, I don't fault you on that. This is Like I said in the other video, I have done a lot of drywalling, but the people who do it every single day, I knew one guy. This guy could make it look like it was easier than heck to patch everything or to do anything. And of course, he'd been doing it his whole life for 30 years. He should have been good at it. My expertise is more in the framing end of the home building, but doing a lot of remodels and room additions, stuff like that, I got pretty good at a lot of stuff. And of course, doing the home repairs, that really makes a big difference. You do a repair like this, and it kind of looks challenging. The first time you do it, you're thinking, oh, how am I going to get through this? But I started in 1978, and it seems like a long time ago, but they didn't have none of this YouTube stuff. If I would have had this stuff, I would have been glued to it, watching every video I could. And what do? You go in and you watch about 15 videos. You should get a pretty good idea how it's done. And again, I'm putting it in the corner. And you can always wash your trowels. I got in the corner so that I don't make a big line. If I didn't do this, I would have lines on the outer edge of the corner trowel. And so you can see I just got a line there on the edge closest to us and watching the video. But you don't see it on the other side. I'm getting the corner, getting a nice edge to the corner. And like I said, you can always have a bucket of water, dip the trowels in there, clean them, and redo it. And you can always use water if you find out that this is getting the stuff setting up a little bit. Just take your trowel and dip it in some water, and then take the trowel and glide it over the plaster. And you'd be shocked at how you can get this stuff a little smoother, and it's going to require less sanding the smoother you can get it. And again, I made that look easy, but that isn't going to be your first time you do something like that. You can start teaching plastering school, I guess, eventually. And I got to get the outer edges there. You can see where the stuff might not be blending in on the outside. Just flattening it out there. The bigger trowels really make it nice to flatten everything out too. You do this with a smaller trowel, it's not going to be as easy. Now we are coming to the end of this video, and I believe the next video will be sanding this stuff down. I don't know if I have any more texture that needs to be put on. And then of course I will texture. So sanding video and then texture, and then we are done.